Hey, what's up everybody? Dr. Jason Day coming to you live from Trinity Life Center, and today we're going to be tackling a very important subject about navigating the stress, the sensory challenges, the anxiety through the holidays, the most stressful time of the year. And this video is going to be short because our advice is get a puppy. Now, I just want to introduce this little guy to you. He's been hanging out with us this afternoon. This is our new guy, our new addition. But today is not about puppies. But one of the things he's going through, this is actually a border collie. And they are known to be the smartest breed on the planet. But there are some systems and some strategies that we have to do and implement in his life to give him the structure and create an environment for success so that he navigates this beautiful thing called puppyhood from the beginning. So there are some things that we can do to make his life and our family's life a lot easier. And I just wanted to share this little guy. He's total clickbait. But no, of course, if a puppy makes you happy, go get one. He will have a name really soon. We're just torn between it. But no, I'm going to put you down. You hang out. Don't pee on anything, please, buddy. But no, this is going to be a quick video, but a very powerful and important one. And this is a consolidation of a lot of information that we give on a regular basis. You know, we won't say the C word. We used to have regular monthly workshops that dove deep. 45 minutes to an hour, deep into the science and the strategies to help not just kids, but families. And the reason that this is so important is because 1 in less than 50 boys have autism. 1 in 5 children have a defined mental disorder. 1 in 4 children have a chronic illness that most likely will have to be managed with medication for the rest of their lives. Dare I say these numbers are epidemic. And you know what? We keep talking about these new normals, and these numbers are normal now. They're common. But I will never accept a new normal that downgrades my health or my family's health or my family's future. And your family's just as important to me. I don't accept these numbers. They're very real. They're science. They're straight from the CDC. But there's reasons we're facing these numbers at epidemic levels. And again, we know all about epidemics and how much that makes the news, but these numbers aren't making the news. But they're affecting so many families. They're affecting pretty much every single classroom in the United States. And again, I have never seen a bigger collective indifference towards anxiety, towards sensory challenges, and the needs these kids have than 2020. And I'm not saying there's a better way. That's not what this video is about. I'm not saying we should be doing things differently. But the indifference that this population is facing, the indifference that our population that has anxiety for very real reasons is just like, oh, well, at least you didn't die. At least you didn't get a virus. At least you're not harming others. My goodness, are we that indifferent? Are we that calloused that we're not willing to look at the numbers or maybe a slightly better path? What can we do? What can we control? And I know there's a sense of hopelessness about it because so often those decisions are handed to us. They're made to us. And I got to wrap up this video before 10 p.m. I promise it'll just be 10 minutes because somebody else out there is telling me I need to be home by then. And we're told that our classes have to be virtual, that we have to do this, we have to do that, or maybe your business isn't essential. And this conversation is essential. Everybody's health, everybody's life is essential. And we're going to deal with the bare essentials of this conversation because those numbers are radically wrong and they're problematic. And we want to see a shift in the right direction. So what is anxiety? What is stress? What is sensory challenges? We don't want to gloss over this and put it all under one gigantic umbrella. But ultimately, a child that's dealing with sensory challenges or a spectrum challenge is a child whose brain and neurology is stuck in the fight or flight spectrum. The sympathetic spectrum, the fight or flight spectrum. This is the spectrum of spectrum challenges. So I think we have to talk about what is stressing our kids out so much. And I'm not just talking about emotional stressors. There's physical stressors. That's stress number 1. There's chemical stressors. And there's an emotional stressor. And we would be lucky if there was just one that our kids faced on a regular basis. We'd be lucky if there was a day in their life that they weren't bombarded with these types of stressors. So a lot of times it can begin in the birth process. I trust a mother's gut more than I do a doctor's diagnosis. And so many moms that I've talked to for a long time and doing this over a decade said, I knew something wasn't right. I had all these different professionals tell me, no, just wait and see. Just wait and see. Maybe they'll grow out of it. And time again, these moms saw that their child wasn't growing out of it. They were growing into bigger challenges, bigger frustrations, bigger disconnect. But let's talk about those 3 different types of stressors because if we can avoid them, great. And I know a lot of you parents that are watching this video are like, we've already been through these stressors. I need strategies to heal from it, to move on from it, to grow from it, to adapt from it. We will get to those very shortly. But the first type of stressor is physical stressors. And that doesn't have to go past the day that child is born. Physical stressors Birth trauma is quite possibly the most overlooked childhood epidemic facing our kids today. The average C-section, according to the medical literature, not me, according to the medical literature, the average C-section puts upwards of 60 pounds of pulling on a baby's delicate neck and brainstem. What is the brainstem? It does a whole lot more than rotation. It does a whole lot more than movement. It's actually an extension of the brain. It's ground zero for this fight or flight thing. That's where it's housed. The fight or flight what? Spectrum. Spectrum of what? Spectrum challenges. It's the same thing. You can neurologically disconnect and overwhelm a child's neurology the second they are born. Now, I'm not here to bash C-section. Thank God for them. They save lives. They quite possibly saved one of my son's life. A lot of times these stressors are absolutely necessary, but how do we heal and adapt and move on from? I'm looking down at a puppy here, but but no, those are physical types of stressors. And when that neurology gets overwhelmed from the beginning, a lot of things can happen. Chemical stressors. Now, this is not a soapbox moment, but there's a lot of chemical stressors in our environment, some necessary, some part of our day-to-day life, some that we don't even know about, and some that are a choice. Antibiotics are passed out like candy. We had a 5-year-old the other day that had over 40 rounds of antibiotics in their lifetime. Again, for ear infections, for chronic allergies and croup, we're destroying our child's gut. And our gut is an extension. It's the most neurologically rich area of the body other than the brain and the nervous system there. So if the gut is overwhelmed, the chemical stressors, again, there are vaccines that can cause problems for some kids. I'm not here to bash those. That's a parental choice. But some kids don't react well. You know what? I'm not anti-peanut, but I'm okay. I can believe in the fact that sometimes kids shouldn't have peanuts. And then there's dietary stressors. Again, vaccinations and antibiotics aside, look at what we're putting in our bodies on a daily basis. And the fact of the matter is there's so many chemical stressors in just an average diet these days. And then emotional stressors. 2020 has been a case study in emotional stressors and how they can overwhelm a child's neurology. A lot of times these kids are marginalized, ostracized. I've already said that. It's not even a stretch. Everybody kind of nods their head in agreement and frustration that 2020 is just plain sucked for this population. A lot of times these kids need that hands-on, that connection, that sensory experience so they don't get grumpy like this puppy right underneath me here. But those are the physical, the chemical, the emotional stressors that overwhelm that child's neurology. And when that overwhelm happens, it leads to neurological disconnect. Let me go grab this guy so he's not too frustrated. Come here, baby. Yeah. So he's getting lonely down here. He has his needs there too. So, but no, I mean, once that brain and neurology kicks in the fight or flight spectrum, all bets are off. And you know what? We've all had fight or flight moments. We've all had fight or flight weeks even, or fight or flight jobs. But if you're constantly stuck in that neurological disconnect, the brain is not adapting. It's not healing. It's not growing. It's actually stuck. And so many parents, so many kids feel stuck in this fight or flight, stuck in this anxiety. But there is hope. There is healing. And again, there's so many outside-in strategies that are absolutely paramount. They're absolutely essential. Of course, diet can play a role. That is a huge piece to this puzzle. And I'm not here to give you a list to go to the grocery store, but don't put inflammatory foods in your bodies. Don't put them in your child. And why is this important, especially in formative years? Actually, I learned this postdoctorate study that the brain is actually developing more in the first 3 years of a child's life than the rest of their life combined. Same thing with this puppy. There's so many things that can go right in these first few years, but problematically, a lot of things can get stuck and disconnected in those early years. So it's essential that we get to this as soon as possible. But yes, we have to look at the outside too. So physical activity, physical play, we call that proprioception. Movement literally stimulates our brain's batteries. Now, look, I know a lot of us stimulate our brain with coffee, or it's like we're trying to figure out what is the chemical that's going to stimulate my brain. It's not necessarily a chemical, it's actually movement. Movement, proprioception, literally charges the brain's batteries. And I think we all know that. If we were getting groggy, if we were stuck at work, one of the best ways we could wake up our brain is just go move. Again, you can slam some coffee if you want to and get that artificial boost, but movement absolutely stimulates the brain battery. So we got the nutrition, we have the movement, and we also have to minimize our emotional stressors. And some situations, like we want to put this puzzle together, but there's a foundational, not even piece. It's literally the table that the puzzles are sitting on, the pieces are sitting on, and that's your brain and your nervous system. And I don't mean to sound dismissive, but if you're trying to put this puzzle together without a foundation, good luck. Good luck. It comes from the inside. And that's where this conversation comes to our place, to our practice, is because we deal with the inside. And something as important as this, something as life-changing as your child being stuck in this world of anxiety, stress, and sensory challenges, we're never going to guess. We're never going to measure. And we're not just going to take another doctor's word for it or just maybe guess based on symptoms. We can measure that neurological disconnect. The medical standard, the most cutting edge technology to measure this sympathetic response, the fight or flight response, is a technology called HRV, heart rate variability. Harvard Medical Review just did a study on this just last summer, and they were actually connecting it back to anxiety. Science, the medical world has found out an objective, meaning no opinions, an objective way to measure if you are stuck in fight or flight. If your child is stuck in fight or flight, it's called heart rate variability. That is one of the most essential scans we start out with every single person in this practice. We dive even deeper with a scan called thermography. Again, another medically based scan that measures those hot spots, measures the inflammation, irritation, and stress that nervous system could be stuck in. And then the last scan was developed by neurologists called an EMG scan. It measures the electrical activity, the stress, the tension, the noise on that muscular system, which is, guess what? Controlled by the nervous system. You can imagine a child or even an adult stuck in this fight or flight spectrum, the stress spectrum. They're going to show signs of that tension and disconnect that we can zero in on. So yes, we can lay out that blueprint of exactly what you can do physically, chemically, emotionally to turn the tide of that outside in. But we got to take a look at the inside. That's what we do. That's what we do best. And that's why we get such amazing results. And you don't have to take my word for it or a cute puppy's word for it. Check out our reviews. One of the most powerful reviews, I actually just was getting tears in my eyes. She actually shot me a message just today. She wrote a review like a year ago, I think, for her son Gavin. But she actually just updated it because the story keeps getting better. The story keeps getting stronger because Gavin is getting stronger. And check that out on Google. Just look at it. It's right up at the top because she just updated, I think, it today. I was like, oh my gosh, I wish I would have read this earlier. This is absolutely amazing because his story is amazing. And what Gavin was going through was sensory processing disorder. And a day in the life of Gavin was a day in the life of stress and disconnect and overwhelm. He had an obscene, like just an absurd fear of the outdoors and that sensory stimulus. And the mom, you can actually read this in a review, she was talking about how if a bug flew in the house, he would just completely have a panic attack. We're not talking about like, oh, I'm a little worried about spiders. We're talking about fetal position crying for hours. Read this in the review. And she posted some updated pictures she sent to me with a bug on his face. The fact that he's wearing shorts outdoors. And for a lot of parents, like, what the heck are you even talking about shorts outdoors? That sensory stimulus on your legs or the sensory stimulus of grass on your toes or a bug touching you was absolutely overwhelming. And this kid, they cannot get him inside anymore. He loves to play outside. And this isn't a story about camping. It's not even really a story about Gavin. It's a story about all of us and how our lives are being disconnected by the physical, the chemical, the emotional stressors, or just call it 2020 as a whole. There's so many things that can overwhelm a child's brain and neurology, sometimes from day one. And if we can measure that, if we can find that, we can go about the important, neurologically focused work of unwinding that. That's what the chiropractic adjustment is finding those key areas, giving that specific neurological impulse so that your brain, your child's brain, can lead a life of connection, adaptation, healing. The answer's on the inside. The stuck is on the outside. The symptoms are on the outside. The strategies a lot of times are on the outside. But if we take that very specific look on the inside, there's not just hope, there's healing. And that's what this brief message is all about. Thank you for tuning in. If you have questions, you know what? That makes you an amazing parent. I think the parents should be asking more questions of their doctors and expecting more from their doctors. And you can expect more from us. If you want to connect with us or have a conversation, that's my gift to you. I'll be happy to hop on a phone call or a Zoom call. I'm not going to have the puppy with you. I'm sorry. But no, we want to have that conversation so that you can get to the place, to the blueprint of what you're looking for in your child. I'm honored to have that conversation. Just reach out to us at Trinity Life Center. Our number is 919-267-9388. You can even text that number, and we will take care of everything from there. It's been a great time chatting with you. You guys have a great evening. We'll talk to you soon. Say bye, buddy. Say bye. Bye.